The Boston Celtics are now just one win away from the NBA Finals. 93-80, they get one on the road in Miami. And MIA, well, they were MIA. 38 second-half points for the Heat, who struggled throughout the night to get any sort of offensive flow going. They shot at 31% from the floor, 15% from three, 7 of 45 from long range as they now have their backs against the wall heading back to Boston. CBS NBA insider Bill Reiter here to help us make sense of what we just saw, or maybe what we did not see. Bill, break it down for us. What's the product looking like right now, specifically on the Miami side? 38 points in the second half. Obviously, has to be better than that at this point in the season. What did you see or not see?
Yeah, Joe, at the risk of getting a little too technical in the weeds, I think the analytics term would be a dumpster fire.
Okay.
As it relates to the Miami Heat's offense, if we're gonna get technical. That is one of the worst offensive outputs, one of the worst offensive performances in a postseason, to say nothing of a conference finals, that I've ever seen in NBA history in a second half. You saw by the Miami Heat. They went 12 minutes without a bucket. They didn't know how to run their offense. They were utterly and totally flummoxed at every turn. Now, I'll say this, give the Celtics a little bit of credit, maybe a lot of credit. Boston has made Miami look utterly pedestrian on the offensive end, and the Heat had a top 10 offensive rating over the course of the year. They shut down completely that Brooklyn Nets offense. Whatever you think about Brooklyn, obviously offensively they were impressive. And even if you go back to the Milwaukee series in the second round, as much as Giannis put up massive numbers in that run in which the Bucks obviously lost to Boston, Giannis Antetokounmpo shot 55% from the field over the course of the regular season and 45% in that series against Boston. So as bad as Miami was, and they were awful, they missed some open shots, they looked terrible, they didn't move the ball, Jimmy Butler doesn't look right, there's a long list. Boston has had a track record in this postseason of making really talented players look less than when they come up against whatever it is they're doing.
They might have been benefit to relativity here as well, because Boston, I wouldn't say had their fastball on Wednesday night on the offensive end of the court, Bill. They were great defensively, but this Celtics team is not without their shortcomings right now, and the story leading into the game was that they were back at full strength. They did not appear to be so. Jason Tatum dealing with some bumps and bruises still. Marcus Smart appeared to still be hobbled. They're coming into this one, and less than 100% did this to a Heat team. Can you explain the variance in this series, why it's been so lopsided one way or the other?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things going on. I do think that the defensive excellence and energy of both of these teams is a significant reason we have seen low-scoring games, ugly games, bad. I mean, it's a bad product to watch. I love the NBA, and I'm one of these guys, I can get down with watching some defense. It's one of the worst basketball games that I've watched, I don't know, the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It was hard to stomach. We all know that it was. But that is in part the product, I think, of a really great defensive effort by the Celtics. So defense is part of what we're seeing. And I don't want to make an excuse for teams, but Ime Udoka, the head coach of the Celtics, talked about this pregame, that just both teams have all kinds of guys who aren't playing or who are banged up. Jimmy Butler doesn't look right. Kyle Lowry has not looked right since coming back from injury. Tyler Hero didn't play. Jason Tatum doesn't look right. Marcus Smart looks like he's still probably, I don't want to say it was rushed back, but obviously Boston got guys back as soon as they possibly could because it felt like a must-win game. You've got this combination of great defensive teams, physical teams, and I think guys that are just banged up, Joe, and it's led to a really ugly product over the course of these games.
Yeah, it's the walking wounded in the Eastern Conference Final, but the show goes on, and the word that we always use when we talk about the Miami Heat over the last decade plus has been culture. And when you have that culture, you don't roll over like maybe we saw the Suns did in the round prior. Let's move it forward to Game 6 in Boston. What needs to change for Miami to ensure they get another one in the 305?
I'm 100% with you on the Miami Heat. I covered that team during the LeBron James tenure. I've got sources within that organization, some who didn't like me back in the day and do now, some who didn't like me back in the day, Joe, and still don't, but for whatever reason still talk to me. I've got a ticket on the Miami Heat to win the whole thing. I've watched a lot of Heat games. I've spent time around that organization a lot the last 10 years. I'm with you. The problem becomes their offense has utterly and totally vanished. I mean, you're talking about an utter abdication of any kind of ability to put the ball in the basket the last 2 playoff games against the Celtics. So first and foremost, the Miami Heat have got to figure out how to score again. And whether it's guys not being right, a different formula, cracking the code that's been that Celtics defense that's been, again, really impressive at every single turn against the Nets, against the Bucks, against the Heat. It's the hardest road in the postseason. Whatever it is, Miami has got to get back to being a good. They were great at times. They have to at least be a good offense going forward because they have been, for lack of a better term, embarrassing over the course of the last couple games.
And I'm not sure where that offensive output comes from. Even with the addition or re-addition of Tyler Hero, there is so much ground to make up for this team offensively. So I will ask it to you. Do they get back to Miami, not for vacation, but for a Game 7?
You know what? I mean, I'm on a bit of a cold streak here, Joe, the last couple of days. My faith in the Heat has cost me a little bit. No, I don't think that they do. I think the series, you said it, we've seen turnarounds. We've seen the Mavericks this year. We know the history of the NBA, and the Heat have an incredible culture. But it's not like these guys are losing really close games or putting up a battle and just coming up short, and there's a small margin that they need to recalibrate to get themselves over the hump. In the games they've lost against Boston, they've been utterly and totally dominated. And the last couple nights in particular that they've played against this Celtics team, the offense has been anemic. You're talking about Jimmy Butler, whether he's not right physically or he's just getting shut down, whatever it is, he has looked like an absolute shadow of himself. To win 2 games in the state their offense is in against a Celtics team and defense that has been this good this far, no, I think the gig is probably up for the Miami Heat.
It's like one of those classic hockey series. When it's all said and done, they disclose all the injuries and our jaw goes agape. We'll see if they can give us a Game 7. Bill Reiter always giving us his best. Thank you, Bill. All right, here's a look at what it looked like and what it is now for the Miami Heat in the comforts of their own home. 7-0 to start. Couldn't be beat. Nearly $113 per game and holding it down sub 100 on defense. Something has changed, whether it's the health, the output, or the belief. 0-2 their last 2, scoring just 91 and giving up 110 points per game.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.